She was 7 years old and had dried blood on her hands. It wasn't hers. And when she pointed to that abandoned building, Jake knew it was too late to pretend he hadn't seen it. But her silence was worse than any scream. Because Jake didn't yet know that the real horror had been unfolding for 3 days, and that he only had an hour before it all disappeared forever. If you believe that some people are still worth saving, subscribe to the channel right now, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from, because this story needs to reach far and wide. Interstate 40 cut through the New Mexico desert like an open scar. Jake, Edge Rider, hadn't stopped at that point on the road in 4 years, not since everything fell apart. His Harley-Davidson devoured miles with that deep rumble that was the only conversation he could still tolerate. The sun was dying behind the mountains, and the heat clung to his skin like a memory that wouldn't go away. He saw the girl when it was almost too late, too small, too dirty. Stopped in the middle of the secondary lane with arms outstretched as if she could stop 3 tons of metal and leather with just her willpower. Jake braked so hard the rubber screeched on the asphalt. His helmet almost flew off his head. His heart pounded. The girl did not back down. She had tangled brown hair, ripped shorts, a t-shirt that had once been white, and bare feet covered in dirt and cuts. But it was her eyes that made Jake forget to breathe. Old eyes. Tired. The kind no child should have. He slowly removed his helmet. The wind carried the smell of old gasoline and something rotten coming from somewhere nearby. "Hey girl, are you okay?" She didn't answer. She just pointed. His thin, trembling arm pointed toward a 2-story building sunken into the side of the road. Broken windows, peeling paint. Condemned signs hung crookedly on the door. A motel that had died decades ago and no one had the courage to bury. Jake looked at the girl, then at the building, then at the empty road. "Is anyone inside?" She nodded, slowly, as if every movement hurt. Jake got off the motorcycle. His knees cracked, his hands still trembled from braking. He crouched down in front of her, trying to meet her eyes that were darting down to the ground. "Who's in there, girl?" Her voice came out low, almost inaudible. "Mommy." Jake felt his stomach drop. "Is your mother imprisoned there?" The girl shook her head. Not yes, not no. A confused, broken shake, the kind that comes from someone who has seen things they shouldn't have. He said that if I left, he would hurt her again. The words fell into the hot air like stones. Jake stood up. He looked at the building. The windows looked like empty holes staring back. There was an old Dodge Ram parked to the side, covered in dust, with faded stickers of flags and slogans that Jake knew all too well. He didn't want to go into that building, but the girl was still there, waiting, as if he were the last chance the world had given her. And Jake knew that was exactly it. Jake took a deep breath. The air burned as he entered. He looked at the girl again and saw something that made him stop thinking like a man who just wanted to walk past. She was holding her own hand. She squeezed her small fingers as if trying to hold herself together, as if, without it, she would crumble right there. He crouched down again, this time closer. "What's your name?" "Lily." The voice was a whisper, but it was there. "Lily, I need you to stay here. Stay near the motorcycle. Don't leave this place, understand?" She didn't answer. She just stared at the building with that paralyzing fear. Jake knew that look. He'd seen it in the mirror. He'd seen it in places he'd tried to forget. He took off his leather jacket. Heavy, worn. It smelled of the road and motor oil. He put it on her shoulders. The jacket swallowed the girl's entire body, but she held onto the ends tightly, as if it were a shield. "You stay here. I'll be back." Lily pressed her lips together. She didn't cry. Children who cry still have hope. She didn't anymore. Jake turned and walked toward the building. Each step sank into the dry sand. The silence was too heavy. Not a cicada, not a breeze. Just that weight in your chest that comes when you know you're entering a place where someone has already died, or is dying. The front door was ajar, swollen wood, rusty hinges. Jake pushed slowly. The creak echoed like a warning. Inside, the smell was worse. Mold, urine, old blood. There were rotten mattresses scattered on the floor, empty bottles, syringes, ashes from an old campfire, and in the corner, under a broken window, Jake saw her. The woman was lying on her side. Her hands were tied behind her back with clothesline rope. Her mouth was taped shut. Her hair was plastered to her sweaty face. She was breathing, but barely. Her eyes snapped open when Jake walked in, and in that second, everything changed. It wasn't fear. It wasn't relief. It was recognition, as if she knew he was coming, as if she had prayed for someone like him to appear, as if her whole life had been waiting for this exact moment. Jake crossed the room. He knelt beside her. He pulled the knife from his belt and carefully cut the tape from her mouth. She coughed, she choked, she took a deep breath. "Lily," was the first thing that came out. "She's fine. She's outside." The woman closed her eyes. Tears streamed down her face. Jake cut the ropes from her wrists. Her skin was purple, bruised. He held her arm and helped her sit up. "Who did this?" She trembled. "My ex. He said he was going to kill me. He said no one would find me here." Jake looked around. There were marks on the wall. Scratches, dried blood. "Where is he now?" The woman looked toward the back door, then at Jake. He went to get gasoline. Jake felt his blood run cold. "What's gasoline for?" She didn't need to answer. Her eyes said it all. And it was at that moment that Jake heard the engine. A Dodge Ram slowly pulling into the gravel parking lot. Jake helped the woman to her feet. She could barely stand. Her legs were trembling. He held her by the waist and looked out the broken window. The Dodge Ram pulled up beside the Harley. The door opened. A man got out, tall, wide, tattoos on his neck, dirty cap, tank top, red gasoline can in his right hand. He saw the girl. Lily was still there, huddled inside the leather jacket. Frozen, the man dropped the gallon jug on the ground. The noise echoed. He walked towards her with slow, calculated steps, like a predator who knows his prey has nowhere to run. Jake dropped the woman, who was leaning against the wall. "Stay here. Don't leave." He crossed the room. He went out the side door. He walked quickly but without running, without making a sound. He circled the building in the shadows. When he reached the front, the man was already 2 meters away from the girl. "I told you to be quiet, Lily." The voice was gruff, threatening. "I told you not to leave here." Lily stepped back. She stumbled. She fell sitting down on the sand. The man moved forward, and Jake appeared. "She's not going anywhere with you." The man stopped. He turned slowly. He looked Jake up and down. He smiled. A crooked smile full of rotten teeth and contempt. "And who the hell are you?" Jake didn't answer. He just stood there, standing between the man and the girl. "That's none of your business, bro. Get out of here before you regret it." Jake still hasn't moved. The man took a step forward. "I told you to get out of the way." Jake knew men like that. He grew up surrounded by them. A drunken father, violent uncles, neighbors who beat their wives and children as if it were their right. He knew the smell, the posture, the way they spoke as if the whole world should obey, and he hated every second of it. The girl said her mother is inside. She said you tied her up. The man laughed, loudly, forced. "The bitch is my wife. I do what I want with her." "Ex-wife," Jake corrected. The smile disappeared. "You don't know anything. I know enough." The man advanced again, faster. Jake didn't back down. "You're making a mistake, man." Jake took a deep breath. He felt the weight of the knife in his belt. He felt the weight of all the times he did nothing. All the times you saw and pretended not to see. All the times you walked right past because it wasn't your problem. Not this time. The only mistake you're making here is thinking you'll leave the same way you came in. The man stopped. He looked Jake in the eyes, and he saw something that made him hesitate. Because Jake wasn't angry, I was sure of it. The man took 2 steps back. He looked at the gasoline can, then at the building, then at Jake. He was calculating, measuring, looking for weakness. "You don't know who you're messing with," he said, his voice lower now. "Dangerous." Jake did not answer. "I know people. People who make anyone who meddles where they're not wanted disappear. Then, call them." The man spat on the ground. "Do you think you're some kind of hero? Do you think you're going to save her? Save the brat?" He pointed to Lily, who was still lying on the sand, trembling. "That girl is my daughter. That bitch in there is my wife. This is a family matter. You have nothing to do with it." Jake stepped forward. "She's no longer your wife, and you lost the right to call that girl your daughter the second you laid a hand on her." The man gritted his teeth. His hands clenched into fists. "I never laid a hand on the girl." But he put it on her mother, right in front of her. Silence. The man looked to the side, at the empty road, at the desert that stretched as far as the eye could see. "No one will know," he murmured. And Jake understood. She understood that this man had done this before. He had hurt people before. He had threatened them. He had tied them up, beaten them, burned them. And he always got away with it. Because nobody saw. Because nobody spoke. Up. Because nobody cared enough to stop him. "I'll find out," Jake said. The man laughed again, but this time without joy. Only despair disguised as courage. "You're going to die here, old man, like a dog on the side of the road." He reached into his pocket. Jake saw the glint of the metal even before he left. A weapon. Small, old, but it worked. The man pointed to Jake's chest. "Last chance. Get on the motorcycle and disappear." Jake didn't move. The man's finger curled on the trigger. And that's when the woman appeared, staggering through the side door of the building, bleeding, holding a rusty iron bar in both hands. "Ryan!" The scream echoed. The man turned around, and the woman struck him on the side of the knee with the iron bar with all her might. The crack was loud, ugly, like wood breaking. Ryan fell. The gun slipped from his hand and slid across the sand. He screamed. He grabbed his leg. He rolled on the ground. The woman raised the bar again, but Jake held her arm. "He arrives." She looked at him. Red eyes, face stained with tears and dirt. "He was going to kill you," she whispered. "I know." Jake picked up the gun from the floor. He unlocked it. He removed the magazine. He threw everything away in opposite directions. Ryan was still groaning on the floor. He was clutching his swollen knee. He was spitting blood. "I'm going to kill you. I swear, I'm going to kill you." Jake crouched down beside him. "No, you're not going." And then Jake saw tattoos on his arms, symbols he recognized, crosses, numbers, gang acronyms. He wasn't just any domestic abuser. He was connected, and that changed everything. Jake stood up slowly. He looked at the woman, then at Lily, then at Ryan, still writhing on the floor, his hand clutching his broken knee as if he could hold the pieces together with sheer strength. The woman dropped the iron bar. The metal fell to the sand with a muffled sound. She stumbled over to Lily and knelt in front of her daughter, pulling the girl into a tight hug. Lily didn't cry. She just sank into her mother's chest and closed her eyes. Jake looked at the road. Empty. Silent. The sun had completely disappeared. Only that bluish twilight light remained, making everything unreal, as if none of it was really happening. But it was. And now he had to decide. He could call the police, wait, explain, testify, become part of a system he didn't trust, and that would probably let that man out in 6 months with an electronic ankle monitor. He could hand the mother and daughter back over to the same cycle of fear, ignored restraining orders, phone calls in the middle of the night, broken doors. Or he could do what he always did. Leave that behind. Get on the motorcycle. Move on. Forget Lily's eyes. Forget the way her mother trembled when she gripped the iron bar. Forget the sound of her knee breaking. But Jake knew he wouldn't forget. I never forgot. Ryan coughed. He spat blood on the floor. He looked at Jake with pure hatred. You don't know who I know. Jake crossed his arms. Tell me then. Ryan laughed. A wet, painful laugh. I hang out with the sinners. Do you know who the sinners are? Jake knew. Everyone in the Southwest knew. Biker gangs, drug trafficking, guns, territories. They didn't forgive. They didn't forget. And they didn't let anyone mess with theirs. They're coming after you, Ryan continued, his voice faltering. They're coming after your family, your friends. They're going to burn everything you love. Jake bent down again. He looked Ryan in the eyes. I have no family. I have no friends. I have nothing to burn. Ryan blinked, confused. So what are you doing here? Jake didn't answer, because he didn't know. I didn't know why he stopped. I didn't know why he stayed. I didn't know why he risked everything for a girl he didn't know and a woman he would never see again. But something inside him, something that hadn't completely died yet, knew that if he walked right past this time, he'd never be able to look in the mirror again. He stood up. Do you have a phone? Ryan frowned. What? Telephone, do you have one? Ryan hesitated. Then he nodded. No bag. Jake picked it up. An old cell phone. Cracked screen. Low battery. He looked at the contact list. Dozens of names. Some with nicknames. Others just initials. He found one marked Press. President. Jake Discu. It rang 3 times. Someone answered. A gruff voice. Irritated. Ryan, what the hell is this about calling now? Jake took a deep breath. Ryan's on the ground with a broken knee, and I'm the guy who broke it. Silence on the other end. Then a low laugh. Dangerous. Who are you? Nobody important. Then why are you still breathing? Because I'm giving you a chance. Another pause. Chance of what? Coming to get your dog. Alone. Without weapons. Without backup. I'll give him back. And we'll forget this ever happened. The voice became serious. Where? Jake looked around. He saw a faded sign on the side of the road. Old Route 40, Canyon Vista Motel. You have 1 hour. What if I arrive with my brothers? Jake looked at Ryan, then at the woman and Lily. You won't find anyone alive there. And he hung up. Jake threw the phone onto the sand next to Ryan. The man was still groaning, sweat dripping down his face, his hands trembling as he tried not to touch his swollen knee. What did you do? Ryan whispered, his eyes wide. What did you just do? Jake didn't answer. He walked over to the woman and, Lily, you need to get out of here. Now. The woman looked at him, startled, confused. But what about you? I'll stay. I'll handle this. But you two can't be here when they arrive. Who? Jake hesitated. People you don't want to meet. The woman pressed Lily tightly against her chest. I have nowhere to go. He burned my house down. He took my car. I have nothing. Jake looked at the Harley, then at the road. There's a gas station 20 kilometers north, a diner next door. You take the motorcycle. Go there. Ask for help. Talk to the owner, Marla. Tell her Edge sent you. She'll take care of you. And you? Jake looked at Ryan, then at the dark horizon. I'll stay and make sure he doesn't follow you. The woman shook her head. He's going to kill you. Perhaps. Then why? Jake looked at Lily. The girl watched him with those eyes that were too old, too tired, because someone has to do it. He took the motorcycle keys out of his pocket. He placed them in the woman's hand. "Do you know how to walk?" She nodded. "My father had one." "Then go, and don't look back." The woman looked at Jake for a long moment. Then she stood up, taking Lily's hand. They walked to the motorcycle. The woman got on. Lily stood there, uncertain. Jake approached. He picked the girl up and placed her in the back seat. "Hold on to your mother. Be strong." Lily looked at him. "Are you going to die?" Jake tried to smile. He couldn't. "Not if I'm lucky." Lily hugged him, quickly, tightly, as if she wanted to hold onto that moment forever. Then he let go. The woman started the motorcycle. The engine roared. She looked at Jake one last time. "Thanks." Jake waved. They drove off. The Harley's taillight disappeared into the darkness of the road, and Jake was left alone, with Ryan, with the silence, with the decision he had just made. He looked at his watch. 50 minutes. He walked over to the gasoline can Ryan had brought. He picked it up. He felt the weight. It was still full. He looked at the building. Then to Ryan. "You were going to burn them alive in here, weren't you?" Ryan didn't answer. He just looked away. Jake opened the gallon jug. He began pouring gasoline on the motel walls, on the floor, on the rotten mattresses. The smell burned his nostrils. "What are you doing?" Ryan shouted. Jake continued pouring. "I'm erasing the place where you were going to kill 2 people. "You're crazy," Jake finished. He threw the empty gallon jug away. He took a lighter from his pocket. Old, scratched. A gift from someone he no longer remembered. Perhaps. He lit it. The small flame danced in the hot air, and then Jake heard engines, several, coming from the road. Not one motorcycle, 5, 6, maybe more. They arrived early, and they didn't come alone. The headlights cut through the darkness like blades. 6 motorcycles, Harley Davidsons, chromed, loud. They entered the gravel parking lot in formation, kicking up dust that glistened in the yellow light of their headlights. They stopped in a semicircle around Jake. The engines died one by one. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. 6 men got out, all wearing black leather vests with the same patch on the back, a skull crowned with flames. Sinners MC embroidered in Gothic lettering, all large, all with expressions Jake knew well. Faces that had seen violence, that had caused violence, that did not hesitate. What lay ahead was different. Older, grey hair tied in a ponytail, long braided beard, tattoos running up his neck to his jaw. He wore sunglasses even in the dark, and he walked like he owned everything he stepped on. That was the president. He stopped 3 meters from Jake. He slowly took off his glasses. Blue eyes, cold, calculating. "Are you the guy from the phone?" Jake nodded. The president looked around. He saw Ryan lying there. He saw the empty jerry can. He saw the motel walls soaked in gasoline. He saw the lighter in Jake's hand. "You've got balls, I'll give you this." Jake did not answer. The president walked over to Ryan. He looked at his swollen knee. He grimaced. "This is ugly." Ryan groaned. He broke my knee." "I see." The president turned to Jake. "Ryan is my brother, blood of my blood. Do you understand what that means?" "I understand. So you know I can't let this go." Jake took a deep breath. He was going to burn his ex-wife and daughter alive in that motel. The president didn't blink. "So?" Jake felt a tightening in his chest, "and I couldn't let that happen." The president smiled. There was no humor there, only cruelty. "Couldn't you? Or didn't you want to?" "Whatever." The president stepped forward. "It doesn't matter, because now you've created a problem, and problems need to be solved." He made a gesture. The other 5 spread out, surrounding Jake, cutting off any escape route. Jake looked around. He calculated 6 against 1, armed probably, experienced, loyal. He didn't stand a chance, but he had a lighter. "I made you an offer," Jake said, his voice firm. "You come get him, alone. We'll forget this ever happened." The president laughed. "Forget? You broke my brother's knee. You threatened to burn him alive. And you think I'm going to forget? He was going to burn a child." The president stopped laughing. "That's not my problem. It should be." Silence. The president looked Jake in the eyes, studying, searching for something. "Are you walking alone?" Jake nodded. "You don't have a club?" "No." "Don't you have any siblings?" "No." "So why are you here? Why didn't you run away?" Jake hesitated. Because he didn't know the answer. Not really. Because someone had to stay. The president shook his head. Tired. "Are you an idiot or brave?" "Probably both." The president looked at the others. He nodded. They moved forward. And that's when other engines emerged, further away, weaker, but coming fast. They all turned around. 3 motorcycles pulled into the parking lot. Not so chromed, not so new, but powerful. The riders got off, all wearing different vests, no club patches, no colors. But Jake recognized the one in the middle. Shaved head, scar across his face, arms covered in tribal tattoos. Cobra. Jake hadn't seen Cobra in 2 years, since the last time things went wrong, since the last time he swore he'd never get involved with that kind of people again. Cobra walked until he was standing beside Jake. He looked at the president. He smiled. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." The president frowned. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone who doesn't like it when 6 guys surround a friend of mine." "Friend?" Cobra looked at Jake. "He saved my life once. I thought it was time to return the favor." Jake looked at Cobra, confused. "How did you know I was here?" Cobra shrugged. "I didn't know. But I was driving down the road and saw a Harley parked at a condemned motel. I thought it might be you, and it seems I was right." The president looked around. 6 against 4 now. It wasn't so easy anymore. "That doesn't change anything," he said. Cobra crossed his arms. "Yes, it changes. Everything changes." And Jake realized that maybe he still had a chance. The president looked at Cobra, then the other 2 bikers, then Jake. He was calculating, weighing, measuring the cost of each decision. "Are you going to risk your life for him?" the president asked, pointing at Jake. Cobra did not hesitate. "I've risked it for less before." The president spat on the ground. "You don't know who you're messing with. And you don't know who I am." Cobra replied, his voice low. "Dangerous." The president took off his glasses again. He looked at Cobra for real. And something changed on his face. Recognition. Maybe fear. "You're Cobra. That Cobra." The snake smiled. "It depends." "Which one? What happened to the dead riders? What disappeared after the Barstow massacre?" Cobra didn't answer. He just kept staring. The president shook his head. "I thought you were dead." "I thought so too." Heavy silence. Tense. The president looked at his people. Then at Ryan, still lying on the floor, groaning. "This isn't over," he said, looking at Jake. "Did you hear? This isn't over." Jake nodded. "I know." The president made a gesture. 2 of his men went to Ryan, lifted him by the arms. Ryan screamed when his knee moved. They dragged him to one of the motorcycles. They put him on the back seat. The driver held him so he wouldn't fall. The president got on his own motorcycle. He started the engine. He looked at Jake one last time. "You saved a child today. Congratulations. But tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, in a week, I'll remember your face. And when we meet again, you won't have Cobra to save you. Perhaps I don't need to." The president smiled. Sad, tired. Everyone needs it. He sped up. The others followed. 6 motorcycles disappeared into the darkness of the road, kicking up dust and leaving the smell of burnt oil in the air. Jake released the breath he had been holding. The snake walked up to him. It tapped him on the shoulder. "Are you okay?" Jake nodded, but he wasn't. His hands were trembling. His heart was beating too fast. He almost died. Again. "Why did you do that?" Jake asked. Cobra looked at the road. "Because I should, and because I wanted to. This will cause you problems. Everything I do causes me problems." Cobra looked at the motel, at the walls soaked in gasoline. "Were you really going to burn all of that?" Jake looked at the lighter still in his hand. "I don't know." Cobra picked up the lighter. He threw it far away on the sand. "It's better not to know." He turned to leave. Jake grabbed his arm. "Cobra, he speaks." "Thanks." Cobra looked Jake in the eyes. He nodded. "Next time, don't wait until you're surrounded by 6 armed men to ask for help." "I didn't ask for it." The snake smiled. "I know. You never ask." He got on the motorcycle. The other 2 did too. They started their engines. "Where are you going?" Jake shouted over the noise. Cobra looked back, far away, always far away, and they left. Jake was alone again. But this time it was different. He looked down the road to the north, where the woman and Lily had gone. He thought about going after them, making sure they arrived safely. But I knew I couldn't. I knew that if I showed up again, I would only bring more trouble. He walked to where he had thrown Ryan's gun parts. He found them. He gathered them up. He took them to the side of the road and buried them in the sand. Then he looked at the motel. Gasoline was still dripping from the walls. He could leave it like that. He could go away. Forget about it. But I wasn't going to forget. I never forgot. Jake picked up his cell phone. He called the police. He reported a fire about to break out. He hung up before they asked his name. Then he started walking. 20 kilometers to the gas station. In the dark. Alone, as always. And as he walked, he thought of Lily. He thought of the way she looked at him. He thought of the quick hug before she left. And he thought that, maybe, just maybe, it had been worth it. Jake walked for 3 hours. The road was a straight line that cut through the desert like an open wound. No cars passed. He saw no light beyond the stars. Only the sound of his own footsteps. The cold night wind. And the weight of everything that had happened. My legs ached. My throat was dry. My head throbbed. But he continued. Because stopping meant thinking. And thinking meant remembering. And remembering meant feeling. When she finally saw the gas station lights, it was almost midnight. A small place, 2 gas tanks, a convenience store with illuminated windows, and next door, the diner, flashing blue neon. Marla's, open 24 hours. Jake pushed open the door. The bell rang. Inside, the smell of stale coffee and burnt toast, a formica counter, torn red upholstered stools, 3 empty tables. Behind the counter, a woman of about 60, grey hair tied in a bun, a face marked by the sun and life. She looked Jake up and down. "Are you Edge?" Jake stopped. "How do you know?" "Because 2 hours ago, a woman and a girl arrived here on a black Harley. They said you sent them. They told me to look after them." Jake felt his chest tighten. "Are they doing well?" Marla nodded. "They're sleeping in the back storage room. The woman was injured. I cleaned her cuts. I fed the girl. They'll stay here tonight." Jake exhaled. "Thanks." Marla grabbed a mug. She filled it with coffee. She placed it in front of Jake. "Sit down. You look like you've walked across the entire desert." Jake sat down. He picked up the mug. The coffee was strong, hot, bitter, perfect. Marla crossed her arms. "Do you want to tell me what happened?" "No." "Fair." She picked up a plate, put toast and jam on it, placed it in front of him. "Come." Jake ate. Not because he was hungry, but because Marla told him to. And something about her made you obey. She sat down on the other side of the counter. She looked at Jake with those eyes that had seen a lot. The woman told, Me a little bit. She said her ex tried to kill her. She said you showed up, you saved them both. Jake didn't answer. He just chewed. She's scared, Marla continued. She said he's going after her. She said he knows dangerous people. Jake swallowed. Do you know? And you? What? Do you know any dangerous people? Jake looked at Marla. I used to be a dangerous person. Marla smiled, sadly. I know. You can see that. She stood up. She grabbed an old key hanging on a hook behind the counter. Room 3, in the back. It has a bed, shower, clean towel. You sleep there tonight. You can decide what to do tomorrow. Jake looked at the key. I don't have any money. I didn't ask for it. Why? Marla looked towards the back door, where the woman and Lily were sleeping, because you did something that few people would do, and that's worth more than money. Jake took the key. Thanks. Marla nodded. Jake stood up. He walked to the room. He opened the door. Inside, everything was simple. Old bed. Clean sheets. Smell of soap. He took off his boots. He lay down. He looked at the ceiling. And finally, he dropped everything. Tiredness, pain, fear, anger. He thought of Lily. He thought of her mother. He thought of Ryan. He thought of the president. He thought of Cobra. She thought about all the times she tried to escape this life, and all the times it came back. And then he thought that maybe it wasn't about running away. Perhaps it was about choosing when to fight. He closed his eyes, but he couldn't sleep, because something inside him knew that this wasn't over. Jake woke up with the sun shining in his face. He didn't remember sleeping, but he must have slept because the light was different. Noon, maybe later. He sat down, his head still heavy, his body ached. He stood up. He took a shower, cold water. He let it run until his skin hurt. He put on the same clothes. They still smelled of gasoline and sweat. He put on his boots. He left the room. The diner was empty. Marla was behind. The counter, cleaning glasses. She glanced at Jake. They've already left. Jake stopped. Like this? The woman, the girl, they left early this morning. They left their motorcycle here. They said they were going to catch a bus. Bus to where? Marla shrugged. They didn't say, but the woman left that up to you. She handed him an envelope. Small, crumpled. Jake opened it. Inside a sheet of notebook paper. Shaky handwriting. Thank you for everything. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't stopped. I don't know if I'll see you again. I hope so. I hope not. I hope you're okay. I hope we're okay. Lily said you're an angel. I said you're just a good man. Maybe both. Take care of the motorcycle. It's yours now. We don't need it anymore. We need a fresh start. And you gave us that. Thank you. Forever. No signature. Jake folded the paper. He put it in his pocket. He felt a tightening in his chest. Will they be all right? He asked. Marla nodded. They'll try. That's what everyone does. Jake walked to the window. He looked out. The Harley was there, parked in the shade, waiting. He thought about going up, disappearing, moving on, but something held him there. Marla. The Sinners. Are you familiar with them? Marla stopped cleaning. She looked at Jake. I know. Do they pass through here? Sometimes. When was the last time? Marla thought. 3 days ago. 6 motorcycles. They stopped to refuel. They didn't cause any problems. Jake nodded. They will return. Probably. And they're going to look for the woman and the girl. Marla crossed her arms. I'm not going to tell you where they went. They're not going to ask. Marla looked Jake in the eyes. She understood. Do you think they're coming here? I know they're coming. Silence. Marla sighed. She walked to a side door. She opened it. She came back with an old shotgun. She put it under the counter. I won't let anyone mess with those I protect. Jake looked at the shotgun. Then Marla, you shouldn't get involved in this. I'm already involved, ever since you sent them here. Jake shook his head. Sorry. Marla smiled, tired. No, sorry. You did the right thing. Now we'll deal with the consequences. Jake walked to the door. He stopped. If they come, don't fight. Just say they've already left, that you don't know where they went, that you only helped because I asked. And you? I'll be far away from here. Marla nodded. Jake pushed the door open. The bell rang, but before he left, he heard her voice. Edge. He turned around. You're a good man. Don't forget that. Jake tried to smile. He couldn't. I forgot a long time ago, and he left. He climbed onto his Harley. He started the engine. He felt the familiar rumble. He looked at the road. 2 directions, north or south. The north was safe. The south was trouble. He sped south, because Jake wasn't running away anymore. He was facing it, and this time he was going to finish what he started. Jake drove for 2 hours. He returned to the motel, to the place where it all began. But now it was different. A police car was parked out front. Yellow tape surrounded the building. The smell of gasoline still lingered in the air, but someone had put out the fire. He didn't stop. He drove straight past. He headed for the nearest town. Gallup, small town, wide streets, old shops, and in the center, a well-known bar. The Iron Horse, biker bar, neutral territory, where everyone drank and nobody asked questions. Jake parked. He got in. Inside it was dark even during the day. The smell of spilled beer and old cigarettes hung in the air. A pool table stood in the corner. The jukebox was playing Johnny Cash softly. 5 men at the counter, all wearing the sinner's vests. One of them was the president. He saw Jake. He stopped drinking. The others did too. Jake walked to the counter. He sat down 3 stools away. Beer? He asked the bartender. The bartender looked at the president, waiting for permission. The president nodded. The bartender served. Jake drank, slowly, savoring the bitter taste, feeling all eyes on him. The president turned in his seat. He looked at Jake. You have courage, I'll give you this. Jake did not answer. Either he's stupid. Jake placed the bottle on the counter. Perhaps both. The president smiled, without joy. Why are you here? To put an end to this. End? This hasn't even started yet. Jake looked the president in the eyes. Your wife and daughter have disappeared. You won't find them. I guarantee it. The president stood up. The others did too. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. The president took 2 steps. He came face to face with Jake. Do you think you can warn me about something? You? A nobody? Jake did not back down. I am the nobody who saved a child you left in the hands of a monster. The president blinked. Ryan is my brother. And the girl? Isn't she your niece? Silence. Did you know what he did? Jake continued, his voice low but firm. I knew he hit people, that he burned them, that he tied them up, and you let him, because he was your brother. The president did not respond. You chose to protect him instead of her. The president punched the counter. Jake's bottle tipped over. Beer spilled. You don't know anything. I know enough. The president grabbed Jake by the shirt. He pulled him close. I should kill you right now. Jake didn't fight, he just watched. Then kill. The president hesitated. But first answer me this, Jake continued. Is it worth it to kill me over a guy who was going to burn his own daughter alive? The president let go. He stepped back. He ran his hand over his face. The others waited, tense, ready. But the president only sighed. Get out of here, he said, his voice tired. Get out before I change my mind. Jake stood up. And the woman, the girl, I'm not going after them. But I can't speak for others, so speak. The president looked at his men, then at Jake. They're out of here, nobody touches them. That's That. The others murmured, but no one argued. Jake nodded. He walked to the door. He stopped. He looked back. Ryan? The president looked at the empty glass. Ryan will pay, in his own way, but not for you. For me. Jake left. He got on his motorcycle. He started the engine. And for the first time in a long time, he felt that perhaps things could change. Not entirely, but just a little. Enough. Jake drove until sunset. He didn't return to the gas station. He didn't look for Marla. He didn't try to find his wife and Lily, because some stories don't have happy endings, only possible endings. He stopped on a back road. View of the desert, orange and purple sky, absolute silence. He turned off the motorcycle. He got off. He sat on the still warm sand. He took the paper out of his pocket. He read it again. Lily said, "You're an angel." Jake folded it. He put it away. He wasn't an angel. He never was. But perhaps, just perhaps, he had done something that mattered. He saved a child. He gave a mother a chance to start over. He confronted men that no one else confronts, and he survived. Not as a hero, not as a victor, but as someone who tried. He gazed at the horizon. He thought about where to go, who to be, how to live with the choices he had made. And he realized it didn't matter, because tomorrow there would be another road, another problem, another person needing help. And Jake would be there. Not because it was good, but because it was the right thing to do. He stood up. He got on his motorcycle. He looked at the road one last time, and he moved on, alone, as always, but carrying something new, the certainty that goodness still existed in the world, even if hidden, even if it hurts, even if it cost everything. And while Harley devoured miles, Jake thought of Lily, in that quick hug, in those eyes that were too old, in that silent promise. And I knew I would never forget. No one forgets when they save a life, not even when saved by one. If you've made it this far, this story has affected you in a way that you're still feeling. And I know this because you didn't look away. You stayed. You watched until the end. And that means something. Now I need you to do 3 things. First, like this video. Not because of the algorithm, but because stories like this need to be seen. They need to reach more people. Second, subscribe to the channel now, because every week there's a new story, a new rescue, a new moment when someone chose to stop instead of scrolling past. And you won't want to miss any of them. Third, comment below where you're watching from. I read them all, and that shows me that these stories are reaching far and wide. But before you go, there's something on the screen right now that you need to see. Because what happened this time was different, more intense, more painful, and the ending will leave you speechless. I guarantee it. So click now, watch it, and then tell me what you felt. And never forget, some people drive straight past, others stop. And the world changes because of those who choose to stop. Until the next story, until the next rescue.